Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is actually a viewer request and it's to look at who is your future spouse. So we're going to be looking at either somebody new coming into your life if you're single and looking for that long-term partner, or even potentially looking at and confirming someone who may be in your life at the moment that you're wondering if that's going to go to a long-term partnership. So it'll be very detailed in terms of the nature and personality, lifestyle, spiritual nature, all of those sorts of things of the person, and then some stuff around how you meet, what's going on in both your lives, or if you already know the person, what's going on as the relationship develops further, and then some advice about the combined energy from spirit and how to make it the most blessed and wonderful partnership going forward. So it'll be quite detailed. It may be a bit longer than the average reading. I don't know. I always film these introductions before I do the readings, so we'll see as we go. One thing I do want to say, a little bit of housekeeping, is I do want to say thank you to the viewer who suggested this particular reading, and to let you know that tomorrow, outside of my normal every 3-day posting schedule, I'm going to post another video, another pick a card reading based on another viewer request, and that one's about where are you going to be in your career in 3 to 5 years time. So two very different types of topics coming from viewer requests, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that now, as my normal schedule is every 3 days, I do have that opportunity sometimes to do an additional one, and it seems to me that meeting viewer requests as quickly as I can is a good way to do that. So I wanted to put these two together one day apart, basically. So hopefully that's of interest to you as well, and thank you also to the viewer who asked for that one. I do hope that if my channel grows to the point that I can have a community tab and interact with you more directly, I can do some polls about the sorts of readings you'd particularly like to see, so that I make sure I meet your needs. In the meantime though, feel free to suggest something in the comments if there's a particular pick a card topic you'd like me to cover. So with that housekeeping done, let's move to the important part of this, which is the choice of the reading or readings. And by all means, go to more than one reading if you want. It might be, in this case, that the personality, lifestyle and elements around your future spouse might be divided between a couple of readings, given that these are collective readings. And I should also say in this, as in all collective readings, take from it what fits for you and what resonates for you, and leave the rest, because there will be a lot of detail in this, and I suspect that even readings that are really spot on for someone who's coming into your life or in your life, there'll be a certain number of things that come up that may not fit, because this is a collective reading and we're trying to cover a range of different possibilities. So as I say, take what works for you, leave the rest. In choosing your reading to help, I have some crystal hearts. On pile 1, a rose quartz crystal heart. On pile 2, an amethyst crystal heart. And on pile 3, a dragon blood crystal heart. We'll start with a range of intuitively already chosen under these crystals, different sorts of oracles to get a sense of who this person is. Then we'll move into tarot to work out more about when and how they come into your life and so forth. So with that kind of introduction, you do whatever works for you to choose the pile or piles that you want to go to. Pause the video if you need to. And when you know where you want to go, which particular reading or readings you want to go to, as always, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So these cards are some of the cards that were under the crystal. We'll look at some of the others and also use the Astro Dice for a little bit more information. But this is the first sort of cut of some of the elements of the personality, lifestyle, spirituality, that sort of thing of the person who is meant to be your future spouse, your future life partner. This is a very interesting person. I should say right at the beginning that gender is not the issue here, so don't be necessarily taken by pictures of women or men. It's not an issue about where someone sits on the gender spectrum, so you will know what your preference is and so forth, so just apply that to this. What these cards are about are some archetypes, some spiritual connections, and then also a little bit about career or ambition, and then we'll get into some other specifics. This person is not what they appear, really, and this is not, I'm not saying that they're being deliberately duplicitous in any way. There's not anything like that. That's not anything to worry about. But they have an extroverted, in your face almost type of energy in a way, and it's not just for you but for everybody. They are probably the life of the party. They're very attractive. Some people think that they use that attraction to draw people in, but this is your future life partner. This is not sort of someone who is playing a game with you or anything like that. But what you will see at first from them is that they are someone who appears to be incredibly creative, possibly quite musical with the Archangel Sandalphon there. Certainly someone who appears to be a bit of a star. And to many people, they also appear to be the answer to their prayers. So they are someone who is very attractive to a lot of people. But this is somebody who will be attracted to you as well. This is your life partner. But it's at first you see that and they look like they're very successful, or they're likely to be. Maybe they have a dream about what they want to do. Because one of the things that's interesting, I mean, over here we have the goddess Lakshmi, or Lakshmi, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's about prosperity, beauty, fortune. There is a sense of beauty, music, creativity around this person. And there's also a sense that they are very good at manifesting. They're likely to be very successful either when you meet them, or they're going to be very successful. And I'm getting that for some, it's actually meeting you. It's like a power couple. It's the alchemy of the two of you together that really raises this particular part of the person up. But it's like out of the two of you, this person's the one who's likely most people will see first. They're just very larger than life in many ways. And as I say, they are on a trajectory to be successful. But it's possible that in some cases that is almost a side hustle or something they do as a hobby that will eventually bring them wealth and bring them fame, I would say, or something along those lines. Because at the moment they're also potentially, when you first come across them anyway, doing something that's either more conventional or something that's about saving up money, getting ready. Because underneath this person is very, very deep. They're not, as I say, they're not what they appear. They appear to be flash, glitter, glamour, extroverted, all that sort of fiery, creative energy. And that is true, but they're also a visionary. And with the Underworld card, they go to great depths. One of the reasons that they're really good at manifesting, Pawan, is because they can go into that almost shamanic sort of energy. That's got a sort of sense of shamanism. It's got a sense of Persephone going into the underworld with the seasons, and that there are different seasons and different aspects. So this person has almost like a dual personality. They're not split, but it's like you will see this side, I think. You will see the visionary. They will share that with you, but I don't think they share it with a lot of people. I think they show something, and a lot of it comes out creatively. They would be the classic person who had a very deep spiritual calling and a lot of knowledge, and then they sublimate that through maybe music, writing beautiful songs that appear to be more about conventional things like love and romance. But underneath all of it, there is actually something much deeper. This person is very deep. And I think part of their visionary aspect and this capacity psychically, I think, and to be able to go into the depths, they're going to see you. They're going to understand who you are and why you are meant to be together. And so you will probably at first think, like, why are they looking at me? Or is this a sort of safe person to be interested in? Because so many people seem to be drawn to them. And I think many of you might be a bit shy. Like, this feels like it's a kind of a opposites attracting on one level, but it really isn't, because you are also like them and they're going to see that. So they're going to see the future. I think both of you will. I think it'll be very, very clear. And if you are with someone at the moment, if that resonates, that they are very larger than life, but there's just this sort of sense of simpatico right from the beginning, then yes, that is absolutely right. They are very much about creativity and light. And it's because they've been in the dark. It's because they can go to the dark. It's because they see all that. And it comes out in these different ways. They're very generous natured by the looks of things. And as I say, very able to manifest. But it just looks to me like it's possible that when you first come across them, they may be in something much more conventional than where the two of you will end up together, I would say. And it's that capacity, that alchemy, bringing it together that brings the eggs in the basket, so to speak. And it looks also as though they help others around manifesting with their helping hand here. So they can do it for themselves, but they do it for others. I think this is going to be one of the tensions at first for you, because I do think that they are very giving and as I say, very attractive, and it's a little bit of a strange combination in the sense that it makes you maybe feel a bit insecure, but you don't need to. Like on a level, you will instinctively know just as they will, and you are like them. That's what I'm getting. You are actually like this side of them, and you also can meet them more at this level than you possibly give yourself credit for, and they will help bring that out. But you also can go to the depths. You also can connect psychically and spiritually and so forth. You're connected to similar sorts of goddess and archangel type energy as they are. But possibly, as I say, you're a little bit shyer or a little bit less likely to be in everybody's face, because they are a bit like that, but it's not bad. It's not bad. So let's have a look at some personality characteristics, some of the other cards that were under the crystal chakra. Okay, so some may be doing this not so much in music and creativity, but in sports and fitness. If not, they're very into that. Like I just get the sense they're very vibrant. There's a lot of energy around this person. That's what I'm saying. They attract a lot of people because of that. And I think they're very sociable. And I think the sports and fitness, if it's not something they do as a career, it's definitely something that they do for socializing, for fun and so forth. They're quite fun. Like that open persona is really fun, but underneath it is the really serious person, and they're very smart, and they recognize that you are as well too. So I'm feeling like you really resonate to this side of their energy, and that's the one that really matters to them. This is the one that they kind of have to have fun and create and to draw people in, but what really matters to them is this capacity to really see things as they are. And it's interesting that we have problem solver, because when someone is able to look at the darkness, I guess, look at all aspects of things and use their intelligence in a kind of almost detached way, they do tend to be really good problem solvers. It just tends to go hand in hand, so it makes sense. But again, it's this almost split personality where one side is about fun and creativity and sport and socializing, and then the other side of them, which is the side that they will connect on for love, and it's why they're connecting to you, pile one, is really smart, really great problem solver, and they see that in you as well. So what else do we have? Okay, so we've got a couple of Chinese astrology signs. So you may, if any of these birth years fit with your person, it might be worth looking up what these signs are about. So these are very much a manifesting sign. This is very much your sort of power, energy type of sign, just in general terms, in terms of the rat and the tiger. So if any of those dates are their birth year, then that's their sign, and it could be picking that up. If not, it's some of the personality traits of those. And I think it really does pick up the problem-solving smart person and the person who's out there with lots of energy. I think it's showing that same sort of dichotomy. And down here we have yellow. So the color yellow here is about the solar plexus chakra. So it's about empowerment. It's about self-actualization. This person is very confident, actually. They're not going to be, and they're likely to be the person who will approach you because they think they're a little bit more confident than you are, and they'll bring that out in you. They're not sort of someone who's going to play around. You won't be in any doubt really about the fact that they're interested in you. I think the only thing you'll be a little bit concerned about at first is how much energy they put into so many people and how much people are drawn to them. But you don't need to worry about that really, but you probably will. So I'm just saying to this right at the beginning, don't. They're seeing in you something very fundamental to them. That they're very, what will surprise you about that, I think, is because they come across as extroverted, cheerful, confident. They could be blonde, they could be, or fair colouring, but that doesn't have to be the case. But yellow is all about that vibrancy. But underneath, they're this sort of energy. And that's what they're sort of seeing and drawing to you. And they will bring some of this out in you, I think. But I think they'll always be a little bit more comfortable in the sort of social space than possibly you are. That's what I'm getting. If you are very comfortable in that space, then they're still going to bring this out. It just means that you're very like them. It's a mirroring of the two of you, like soul twins, very similar sort of personalities. But I just get for many of you, this person is more extroverted and out there than you possibly are. So I'm also going to use the astro dice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to specifically put down firstly the sun, because I want to just use one of the dice that is the signs to see what kind of energy we have in terms of a sun sign. So we have Sagittarius, so that's fiery energy, freedom loving, enjoying love, enjoying sort of sports, fitness, getting out there, very sort of philosophical and kind of spiritual, but in that kind of very expansive sort of way. So they could be a Sagittarian sun or a fire sun in some way. They don't have to be. These are just to give you some of their personality characteristics. So then also let's have a look at the moon, so their emotional nature. We have Gemini. Okay, so there's the thinker, there's the problem solver, and there also is that split personality. Geminis often are like two people in one. They often do have two very strong sides to their personality. Very much a talker about what they feel with the moon in Gemini. So they will definitely be someone who is open to having those discussions and likes really deep discussions as well. Again, they don't have to have moon in Gemini. This is just to give you a sense of the sort of personality we're talking about. Then let's have a look at Venus as well. So the love nature. Sagittarius again, yeah. They love life. These people love life, and it's really interesting because it's hard won. This is not someone who is naive. This is not someone who just thinks everything is wonderful, with, sugar and a bow on top. They're not that sort of person, not with this sort of energy, but it's like that understanding and that depth has made them truly appreciate life. And they love passion. They're very passionate. And that's also partly, I think, why they're so attractive to other people. They exude that kind of passion in their sort of love nature and so forth. So let's also have a look at the first house. So I'm just going to put that down because that's the ascendant. So we're going to also look at the sign for the ascendant, because often the ascendant is more what the person seems to be like than often their sun sign is. So this is Virgo. So this is picking up this energy, I think. This is picking up the manifestation. Virgo is about earth-related things. This is their capacity to manifest. It's part of who they are, part of what the world will see in them. And it's also, I think, the problem solver, because Virgo gets into the detail. So you've got someone who in their sun sign, the energy around their sun, their life path and their love nature is fiery, expansive, freedom-loving, passionate. Someone who in their emotional nature likes to talk, think things through, and in the way that they're seen to the world are able to manifest. Okay, so that's given you a bit of a sense of the person. If that doesn't seem to fit with someone who you're around or someone you would want, this may not be the right deck for you, but I do think, or right reading for you, but I do think that you'll find this is the energy that connects you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use tarot, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put out some cards for what I think would be going on in their life when they meet you, or if this is someone you already know, at the point where it may move to a more committed relationship. So this is just to give you a little bit more information about the person, to help identify them by knowing what's going on for them at the time, which may pick up their attraction to you, but may also pick up things around career or other issues that are going on. Okay, so we got the really fiery energy again, and I don't think this person's going to be hard to pick, to know. That sort of like expansive fiery energy is very much around them, and they certainly are self-actualized on some level. They are, with the Queen of Wands, very vibrant. They have traveled, and the Queen of Wands in many decks, not so much in this deck, but in terms of the symbology generally about the Queen of Wands, she often has a cat with her. It's a black cat, and it's often about carrying the shadow and understanding that, which picks up this energy. So this is, when you meet this person, or possibly at the moment with this person, if you already know them, they have reached a sense of self and they have reached a level of balance, but they have yet to make a decision to free themselves from something. They have been in some sort of conflict. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you've just met this person. I think it's quite likely there's a conflict or an issue around who they want to be and what they're doing in their career. I definitely get that feeling that that in the longer term they need to do something that picks up their visionary nature and their creative nature. And I do think meeting you is going to make a difference to that. If it's not that, then there's been some conflict around them. It could be family, it could be in the workplace for a different reason also. And they are working their way out of that with the Five of Wands reversed. So they have gone through a bit of a battle and they are releasing it so that they can become more of who they are. But it requires a freedom of some form that they haven't yet made the decision. And they've been kind of putting it off for some reason. So it does feel in most cases this may be around work and moving from a more conventional thing into something that's more creative or a little bit more out there. But it could also be that they are moving away from a relationship that they've been in that was not the right relationship for them, that was full of a lot of conflict. And if that's the case when you meet them, that might also be some of the confusion I'm getting that you have around, is this person going to be with me? Is this going to happen? And so forth. But I feel like if that's the case, what I'm getting is that the person that they were with was more like this extroverted side of their nature and didn't necessarily have the depths that you have. And so I think you may be the catalyst in that case when they recognize that, the better connection to become free of whatever it is. And so it's either free of a career that isn't working, you inspire them and maybe together you do something, or it's something around a relationship. But they are at this point when you meet them, or right now, if you're thinking about the person, there is something they need to free themselves of. There is something they need to do so that they can move forward and really express themselves in the way that they want to. So let's have a look at what's happening with you at the same time as this, because that also helps in terms of timing to work out who this is. Pile 1. Okay, so firstly, I think that at the time you meet this person, or possibly now, you have been through some emotional loss and have been alone for a while or felt alone in a relationship. Because with the Five of Water and Five of Earth, they both speak to emotional loss. And so that may be also why I get this sort of sense where you feel a little bit uncertain at first, because if this person appears to be very attractive to a lot of people, it could be like, well, can I connect with this person enough because I've been hurt before? So you look like you feel a little bit gun shy about that. And you are someone who moves into two modes to deal with that. One is around creativity and around your sort of passions and interests and so forth. So I do think there's a creative connection between you. So that is part of how you deal with it. It's like because of some sort of disappointment, and it may not have been a disappointment in a relationship, it might have been around career, it could be either, but there's been a disappointment, you felt a bit isolated, but you are starting to work out who you want to be again, and you're starting to redefine what you could be passionate about, having learnt from these particular losses. And you then defer to your mind. You live very much in your mind. This is why you're connecting on this level. Like you with the ruler of air, which is like the king or queen of air, you are somebody who also can problem solve, also can look at the world, in that kind of structured way and look into the philosophies of things and look into the depths if it's necessary. You may in fact be someone who meets this person through helping them around what this conflict is. That may be how you meet. Something about you, I'm getting, could be anything from you meet them in a sort of friendship circle and you're able to give them some advice about dealing with this escape clause that they need because you've had to go through something yourself. Or you could be someone, I'm getting like this is very specific, but someone who maybe writes and you write about things, so it's on a blog or something like that, and your thoughts and your philosophy draws this person to you. It's your creativity does that. It's through something like that. So that's quite specific, but I feel like that could be there. All right, so we're also going to have a look at using the Heart Code oracles, which are some oracles that look at different facets of life. And I've chosen ones around relationship and around lifestyle and around career. What's going on for each of you in that as well too, just to also help with the timing around it. So let's start firstly with relationship for each of you. So This is picking up. This person is ready for an adventure. This person is ready to be the Knight of Wands. They want a relationship that is free and fun and is who they are, and they want a life partner to go on an adventure with them. You are going to be that person for them, whether you realize it or not. And it's got something to do with this combination of effectively the Page of Wands and, as I say, the King or Queen of Air there. Your way of thinking and your way of creating is incredibly inspiring to them, and they are ready for something new. I feel like they've been really weighed down in some way, and it could be in a relationship. And I feel if it was a relationship, it was really competitive. Like, I feel like, as I say, they were drawn maybe initially to someone who appeared like them on the surface, this surface person, but it was like really competitive and really not healthy on that level, and it weighed them down if it's that. And if it's not, they're ready for, if it's about career, they're ready for a relationship where they can have a partnership and go on an adventure, an emotional adventure together. You're still sorting through the consequences of something. So I do think this was around a relationship. I do feel like you're still really a little bit gun shy. I do think this person's going to be the one who does most of the pursuing, because they're going to need to, not because it's not the right connection. I think it is. That's the whole intent of this reading. But because I think you are still sorting this through, and it's almost like you've sublimated what you deal with to help them in some way, but it's ultimately them that will say, let's go on the adventure, because you're still thinking like, what are the consequences of relationships? You know, like, what is the long-term, does this have a long-term energy to it? And because of the nature of this reading, the answer to that would be yes. So let's have a look at career. This might also give us a bit of a sense about whether these tarot cards are about career. So career for both of you at the time you meet, or the time that this moves into something more long-term. Okay, so they are moving into a cycle of self-worth. I do think they need to change for that reason. Even if there is a relationship they need to break from, I do think that they need to move into a much more creative and inspired sort of energy around their career, because it's about their self-worth. And they get their self-worth not just from this outer persona. I mean, most people would look at this person and think they're so confident and they have so much going for them. But underneath their real self-worth comes from this side, this visionary side, and they do need to find the right partner for that, you know, and this is what you're representing to them. But you're not talking about your work for some reason, or you're in a workplace where you feel that you can't speak out with silence there. You're waiting potentially on the consequences of something. So it may in fact be work relationships, and it may have been a relationship around somebody that you worked with. If that's the case for some of you, you might also be hesitant if they're saying, let's go on an adventure that is both a love adventure and a work adventure. But this is a partnership that's meant to work. So let's also look at lifestyle energies around both of you at this time. Okay, so this is them living in their head, this is the connection, it's their lifestyle. They want to be able to reason out and be sure and problem solve. That's the thing that's probably holding them back from some of the sort of more creative stuff. They need to have a plan. There's someone who likes a plan, they like to solve problems and so forth. So part of this decision making, where they're a bit stuck, is around their reasoning, and it's one of the reasons why you're going to help them, I think, because you are good at reasoning. So are they. But I think when it's personal and when it connects to their self-worth, like most people, it's a little bit harder to do. We often, no matter how logical we are, it's harder to be logical with our own stuff. So that connection between the two of you and your understanding of the consequences of things emotionally, because remember they had that Gemini moon, that sort of sense of an intellectual and communication related response to emotional things, is really powerful. You're aware of the importance of reputation. So there's something in this, either in your career around the time this is happening, or it's what you're seeing and reflecting on theirs, about making the right decisions at the right time to protect the reputation. There's also, I'm getting for some of you, because this person has that extrovert femme fatale energy, you may find that some people feel that this person doesn't fit your lifestyle, is too unconventional, is too this, that, or the other. And so you're grappling a little bit about the consequences to your reputation. And with the silence there, I feel like certainly in career, but more generally, it's just saying keep your own counsel about this, because other people's opinions don't matter. See how this connects. This is actually not what it appears on the surface. That's what I keep getting around it. So before we move into the collective energy, I just remembered here that I did mean to use the letters in the early stages of it. So we'll just do it now just for some initials to see whether any of those connect for you. So we've got M, Q, J, G, Z, and L. So we're not getting any words because we haven't got any vowels. So I would say those are definitely meant to be potentially initials, or they could be, you know, acronyms for career places or other things where you meet for some reason. But those may have an impact on this for you as well. So let's get onto the third part of the reading, which is really about the combined energies that you have when you meet, or when this sort of moves into this longer term relationship. So firstly, let's have a look at the sort of love energy, the sort of, from the jukebox oracle, the sort of musical energy, particularly as this person's quite musical, that is connecting for you. Okay, so we've got feeling so good. So it's a very positive energy. For all that I do think you're a little bit concerned about this and whether it is going to be what you want it to be, it will be. It feels good and it's a good reason, and you don't have to justify your love. So this is, I think, picking up that maybe other people will have an opinion on this, and this energy is meant to be saying to you, don't let other people's opinions get in the way, because this is a good energy for you. Let's also see what advice Spirit has about how to progress the relationship into this long-term partnership. Okay, so firstly we've got harvest. So I think that is definitely showing this sort of manifestation energy that the person has. I'm just going to put a little bit more light on this. It was looking a bit dark there, I'm sorry. This is definitely picking up that kind of sense of manifestation, and that's picking up the sense to me that the two of you together create the energy that is necessary. So I think there is this power couple, there's this alchemy between you, that the two together is more than either on their own, and both of you have this tendency to go inward, and it's going inward and into the depths that actually draws that and builds that. It gives it its substance. This person appears to be, as I say, so vibrant, but a lot of people have no idea the depths they have, and I think they probably have a better idea you have depths, to be honest, but the two of you together, it's a powerhouse on that sort of level, and certainly a powerhouse of manifestation. You are meant to be together and prosperous together, and you're meant to be doing something that is creative in some sense, and that could mean anything, whatever interests you. So to finish off, I firstly want to pull some cards around astrology, so not using the Astro Dice this time, but an astrology deck, to see the composite energy between you. If you're in astrology, you'll know that you can take two natal charts and put them together and get what's called the composite chart, the chart of the personality of the relationship. So I just want to get a little bit of information on that, and then we are going to close out with some timing energy for you. Okay, so firstly, remember that we had Virgo around the first house. So maybe you both have earth signs in your ascendant, or strongly, but there's certainly together there is something Virgoan about the way you appear into the world and about your career and so forth. And it again gives me the sense that you will be working together as well as together, and you will manifest really well together, and you ground each other, because you're both people who live a lot in your head. This person appears also to live in sort of the passions, but really they live a lot in their head with that visionary sort of energy, and so do you with that ruler of air. But together somehow you ground each other and you bring things into being. And again, I get the sense you're going to be seen. Like there's something about this relationship that in whatever level it is, in whatever part of your life it is, it's bringing something into being seen by others, something very manifest, something very successful. So that's very positive. Let's have a look lastly at maybe a few cards around timing. So this could be timing of meeting if you haven't met yet. It could be timing of moving into the sort of long-term relationship. It could be timing around what you manifest together. We'll just see what we get. Okay. So right on time. Firstly, if you haven't met this person, you meet them at exactly the right time and remember the things that are going on in their life and how you can help. That's part of the energy. If you have met them, then you met them at the right time to really make this connection. There's something about April. So that could be a significant month for progressing the relationship in some way. It could literally be the month that you get married in. It could be the month that you meet if you haven't met yet. But in either case, because this is meant to be on so many levels, it's time to plan. It's time to think about what would the two of you be together? What could you create together and plan together? Because again, with that very strong earthy energy around it, you're meant to create something. You're meant to bring something into the world. So certainly very positive on that level as well too. So pile one, I do think that you're going to find the absolute right person for you, but I think it might surprise some people, and I think you might feel a bit insecure at first, but I don't think it will be for long because you're helping each other. You're helping this person work through the implications of some change that's going on in their life when you meet them, or possibly now if you do know them. And they're going to help you understand the depths that you have and the creative energy you have is at their level, that you are more than you're giving yourself credit for. So I hope that that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I do apologise for the lighting through some of it. I realised sort of as I was going through and I looked on the screen and it got a little bit dark, so I'm sorry for that. But I hope that nevertheless it was an enjoyable reading, and if so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you have any comments, I'd be fascinated to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome pile 2 to your reading. So these cards were among the cards that were under the crystal that brought you to this reading, and they're the first part of what is almost like a personality profile for your future spouse, and then we'll get into some of the other cards and other information to give you more of a sense of who this person is if you haven't already met them, and if you have, to maybe confirm that yes, if you're feeling this person might be a long-term partner, that you're right. They're a very interesting individual. They are very spiritual, I think, and very psychic and potentially a little bit otherworldly. And part of the reason I say that is we have one of the sort of spiritual guides or energies around them is Commander Ashtar, which is a star seed. It's about space travel, galactic guides, that kind of thing. That they may well be someone who has origins from another planet or something like that, or have sort of a sense of something like that, or very interested in astrology or astronomy or UFOs or any of those sorts of things. May even have had, I'm getting, with some interactions with beings from other dimensions and other galaxies and so forth, potentially. There's definitely something like that with them, and it has to do with understanding power. I feel like this person at some point in their life, if not, they may already be doing this by the time you meet them, or it may be something that they evolve into, have a bit of a mission around understanding power and the right use of that in some environment. And they have a very forensic way of looking at things, because they have this, it's really strange. I'm getting a really strange image here. I get on one level this sense of distance perspective that you get from Commander Ashtar, being able to see something like an eagle flying over a desert and seeing a whole range of things and what's going to come and happen. It's often an image I get for tarot reading and divination, where there's that long distance perspective about what's happening and going to happen that it isn't seen yet. So there's that sense of that, but there's also the microscopic getting in and looking at an almost scientific level. So I'm getting that this person may either work around power in some way and understand it, really understand office politics, maybe work in sort of politics or community organising or something like that, but it's from a very broad perspective about what what should be done in the world, but they're also potentially very forensic about the detail. And so it's possible that some are also scientists, like they're literally in science, or I'm getting writing science fiction. So some of them may be doing that, because science fiction is a very interesting genre on that level, in that it often takes science matters and alien matters or whatever, and it actually then uses that to shine a light on issues around power and totalitarianism and all of those sorts of things. So I'm getting that some may in fact do it that way, of taking a distance perspective and then narrowing the focus in. And some may work in forensic or detective type areas as well too. That could be a very literal thing with that archetype. So there's that level around them, and they are very much living in their head if that's the case. And that's the dichotomy, and that's the thing that they're trying to balance, because on the other side of them, they're very passionate people. And this card is saying spiritually they need to get back into their body a bit more. So I think that one of the things, and I think love is the way that they do it. And I think the connection to you will be a really important thing in grounding this energy, grounding that perspective that they have. You are the perfect complement to that, because you are very grounded. And look, I'm getting some of you might be very scientific or forensic as well in some way. And so there's that connection that way. But you almost come from a evidence base and move up. They come from this higher perspective, but then need to move back down and find the evidence. It's like you meet in the middle somehow. That's the feeling I get about it. But you're both coming to the same sort of place, and you're meant to be together. But for them, the way to connect is going to be through their passions. I think you won't be in any doubt about the fact that they find you attractive, and I think this relationship will start very physically. There'll be a very, very strong chemistry right from the beginning, a lot of passion, and you'll feel safe, because this person is very generous natured and very spiritual. Like they understand the consequences of things. They would not do harm. And they may very well, with that, as I say, work in something spiritual, or something which has a spiritual aspect to it, even if it's more scientific. So I think you will feel safe with this, but I think you'll also intuit that that is the way to ground them and bring them down to earth a bit, because they need that. They need that to not be kind of always free floating up looking at the big picture. They need to have a life as well. They feel a bit like someone who, without the grounding of the right love partner, which will be you, they live so much in the philosophy and so much in these sort of causes that they never fully experience the joys and the gifts of life as well. So I think you will know this person, because there will be an amazing chemistry between you, and you'll have a sense of them working at this other level. And I think you're more than their match. It's not like they're advanced compared to you. It's just that you both come to the same point from a different perspective. So let's have a look at some of the other personality type of aspects that were in the cards under the crystal. Okay, so firstly, we've got three colours. So colour energy is very powerful in understanding a personality. So firstly, we've got brown, natural, warmth, melanin, friendly. This person may be dark-skinned, may or have strong melanin. It may have brown hair. All of those sorts of things in terms of colouring could apply. They are very natural. They do need to naturally they should be in their body. And they are friendly and they are warm. You will get that sense of warmth, that fiery energy from them, particularly with red over here as well too. But I just think they're a bit detached from it at the same time. They're more in that aspect of their nature when they're helping others than helping themselves. But they can be reached through passion, through things that are about passion and energy and all of that sort of thing. That is the connection. As I say, it's going to be a very passionate connection right from the outset, but it gets all these other levels of depth, and that's why it's a long-term partnership through that particular modality of that sort of very strong physical attraction. And then white, I feel like this is picking up this starseed sort of energy, and also the fighting against tyranny, the fighting against the shadows. There's elegance, purity, even a kind of innocence around them. And that actually makes a lot of sense to me, because it's like you're in the evidence side of things and they're in the philosophical side of things. When those two energies come together, the innocence and the purity then also gets the grounding that it needs. And this person does need that sort of grounding. See what else we get. So they may have light hair or light colouring. Because this is a collective reading, that may or may not apply in all cases, but for some that may resonate. It's saying 30, so probably that's the sort of age group that you're both in, or that might be the age group when you met the person. But if it's not, then I think it's got the energy level of 30. So if they're either older or younger, if they're younger, then they're mature for their age. If they're older, so if they're in their mid-20s, for instance, then they're going to appear more self-actualised than people generally in their 20s appear to be, as a generalisation. And if they're older, then there's a lot of youthful energy still to them. There's sort of innocence maybe gives that energy. But I think for most it probably is in that sort of age range. And they're ambitious, so they will want to achieve something. They do have strong ambitions about power and about causing social change, I think, or philosophical change. So their ambitions are other person-centered, but nevertheless they're very strongly there. Okay, now we're going to use the Astro dice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the dice that has different planets. So we're going to start with the sun first, and I'm just going to roll the dice that has a sign to get a sense about what the sun sign may be of this person. So we've got Sagittarius, so that's freedom-loving, philosophical, fiery sort of energy, like Saint Bridget over here, very passionate and so forth. That is the way they connect to people, and it is part of their life path. They need that passion to ground them because they are so ethereal on other levels, but their life path, which is what the sun is, what they're developing into, is what they are passionate about. Now, they don't have to be a Sagittarius, they could be a fire sign, or this could just simply be saying the type of personality we're talking about. If we then do the same thing, but we do the moon, so we're looking at their emotional nature. You've got Aquarius. Oh, yeah, so there you've got it. There you've got the starseed, transpersonal, philosophical person. They do live in their head about what they feel. Like they need to live in their body about their passions, and that connects them on other levels. But they are very philosophical. They are very for the whole world type of energy. They're ahead of their time. Emotionally, they're ahead of their time. They're probably a very good radar for the emotions around them. They probably pick that up really well, and they probably can see where emotions are heading around groups as well. So that's part of how they can understand power, I think. Then let's have a look at Venus for the love nature. So there's Venus. Venus and Scorpio, oh, there's the lover. There's the passionate person, there's the depth around all of that sort of thing. That's why you will ground this person and bring this energy together through love, through passion, through all of that sort of thing. That's very intense. They're very intense about that sort of thing, and that connection is very intense. Scorpio is also very loyal, so I think that's a very good sign. So what we're also going to do is we're going to take the first house, because that's effectively your ascendant. And we'll do this one more time. The ascendant is often how people appear to others more than even their sun sign. So it might give us a little bit more information. And we've got Libra. So again, they will appear to be about fairness, about justice, about balance. It's very philosophical. It's very air-oriented. Underneath everything with that Venus in Scorpio, their passionate and their love nature is very, very strong. But to other people, they appear to be about social causes, about justice. They may work in a justice sort of area. As I say, the detective, it might be in law enforcement or something like that potentially, or just an intellectual area. They could be a researcher, they could be an academic as well. All right, so we'll also just get some letters just to see whether there's any initials or other things that might help with identifying the person, if you don't already know who this is. So we've got N, J, X, V, M, Q, and U. Okay, so we don't really have, I think, words as such there. So I think this will be more around initials and so forth. It could be initials of your spouse-to-be, or it could be initials that have some bearing on it, like an acronym for a workplace that you meet in, or a cause that they're working on, or something like that. So that's I think how that energy is working for you. All right, now that we've got a little bit of a sense of who this person is, let's have a look at how you meet them and so forth. So I'm going to use one tarot pack firstly to have a look at what's going on in their life, either when you meet them, if you haven't met them yet, or what's going on in their life when this moves into the more solid long-term partnership if you think you already know who this person is and you've met them. So this is to give us a bit of a sense of timing and also confirmation. Okay, so this firstly is picking up again this energy with these particularly with the Knight of Pentacles reversed, but also with the Eight of Cups, emotional stuff that needs to be let go of, that isn't necessarily let go of this person needing to ground. Like the Knight of Pentacles suggests to me that they have been uncommitted to other relationships or something in their life. It could be their career. Something is not grounding for them. And I think it is about finding the right person. I think because they connect first through being a lover, it may well be with this Ace of Cups and Eight of Cups reversed that when you meet them, they're coming out of a relationship that wasn't right for them, that kind of didn't ground them or didn't take them where they needed to go and so forth, so that they can meet you. And they really want to find a relationship that they can invest in, and something that's longer term and something that is grounded. So the good news is I think they know this about themselves. They know they need to find their other half, the person who balances that out for them. But they have been, I think, in a relationship or potentially a workplace that has not worked for them. So it may be that you meet them when they're leaving a workplace and they haven't fully resolved the issues associated with that for some reason. Maybe it was a workplace where there were power games played that they just could not countenance and could not support. But I think for many, this is around a relationship that they have. Because of the way they connect, they probably have had a number of relationships that just haven't really grounded because it was their mode of doing it. But in your case, it's going to ground because it's the right one. And I think they even have a sense of that. They have a sense that you are more grounded than they are. So let's have a look at what's going on for you with a different tarot pack at this time. Okay, I think many of you may meet, interestingly enough, through some sort of work project, because we've got the Knight of Pentacles here reversed for them. They're sort of moving out of something with the Transformer of Earth, which is effectively the Knight of Pentacles in this deck for you. So you may even meet because they leave one workplace and come to a new one, and that's how you meet. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm getting for some that's a very literal thing around a workplace. For others, I think it's that you are grounded in what you do. You're loyal and committed to what you're doing in your life, and you've probably left somewhere not too long ago too. So maybe both of you leave a workplace and that allows you to be together. That's another way. Potentially you've met, but the relationship can't flower in that sort of environment, and so you both leave a workplace. That's a possibility as well. But if this is just when you've met, then I think you've freed yourself from certain things that were dulling what you wanted to do and your fiery energy, because you have a fiery energy. Just because you're grounded doesn't mean you don't. But you've been able to create a sense of self and a grounding with the Nine of Earth or the Nine of Pentacles, where you can stand on your own 2 feet if you need to. You're not beholden to a workplace or to authority figures or anything like that. It looks like you meet at a time where you have created something for yourself and you've unshackled yourself from things that were dulling your fire. And I think that's part of what connects you as well, because I think that fiery energy, you're ready to release that and they connect on that level first. But where you ultimately ground is that you have worked that out for yourself on a career level or on a creativity level or something like that. You really have a very strong sense of self and what works and doesn't work in your life, and you're prepared to let go things that don't work in your life. So you're primed to meet at the right time, I think. This is what it's saying. And if you already know this person, then you are further advanced on that aspect of life than they are. But that's what they need at this point. And then they bring to you this sort of galactic sort of view to things. So what I do want to do is I want to use some decks called the Heart Code Oracles, which have different decks for different things. So I'm using the Heart Code Oracles for relationships, for career, and also for lifestyle, just for a little bit more information around this. So a card for each of you. So starting with relationships, If you can't read that, that says self-focused. And that says judgment. So you have released yourself from something. Maybe this was not a career thing. If this is coming out in a relationship, you may have released yourself from a rather, if that's the case, obsessive and competitive relationship. You are in a bit of a judgment phase around relationships. So when you look at this, even though I think there's a huge passion between you, you will be looking at it to whether it is long term. And given the nature of this reading, the promise is that it is. But I think when you first are around each other, because of being in maybe competitive relationships before, or unhealthy relationships in some way, and having got your independence and your sense of self back, you're very much judging how relationships operate and what you want in a relationship at the time you come across the person. And they may appear at first very self-focused, but they're not really. I think that the thing is that the reason you'll probably get this is that you'll think, firstly, the passion is there. So that's all very what you want, when you want it now, and all that kind of thing. And then this philosophical precision that they bring to things may seem very focused on themselves, but it's not actually. It's focused on something bigger than themselves. It's just, I think at the time you meet them, they've had to make a personal decision about leaving something that wasn't right. And because of that, you may at first think they're a little bit obsessed with themselves, but you will work out over time. Your judgment is clear enough that that's not the case. So let's have a look at career energy for you and this person. Okay, so for them we have change. So I'm just trying to get this lighting right because it's there. That's a bit better. The lighting isn't great today, I'm sorry. So for them there is change. So that's definitely, again, giving me the sense that this is most likely to be that they've just left a workplace that hasn't worked out, that maybe had power orientation that they didn't like. So they're going through a process of change around the career and so forth, either when you meet or at the point when you start to move toward this more committed relationship. You are in the stage of communicating what you want around your career. That's because I think if you've left something, or if this isn't about leaving something, if this is just about you becoming the Knight of Pentacles, becoming the Nine of Pentacles as well too, you're communicating what you want in a career in a very clear way. I do think there's a career connection between the two of you. So this may be part of what creates the better understanding of what's going on with this person. And let's have a look at lifestyle. So they're the type of person in their lifestyle, this says initiative if it's hard to read, who takes the initiative. You know, they are someone who will, if they're interested, will make it clear that they're interested. This is why I think, the passion will be very clear right from the beginning, and they will take the initiative to do something with this. And you then provide the solution that they're looking for. So your lifestyle is solutions focused, it's evidence based, it's practical, it's not boring or dull or anything like that. It is very precise and very clear and very grounded, and you provide that energy to them, and also their initiative provides to you. There's a simpatico there. Their sort of inspiration that comes from this sort of like higher level perspective, and your evidence-based understanding of how things really work together. There's a huge alchemy that occurs around that for your lifestyle. So that's good. So let's have a look at some of the energies between you going forward. So firstly, I want to look at the sort of love energy using the Jukebox Oracle. So this is looking at the sort of almost soundtrack of this relationship, particularly at this point when it's either first starting or first moving into something more long-term. That's interesting. That one came up for another one. So I think there's definitely, and it's interesting because that reading was a bit like this in that there were almost two apparently opposites, but weren't really opposites when they came together. They kind of alchemized together. So I think there is a sense of justifying love. There might be in this a suggestion that there is something for some where you've had to leave a workplace so that you could be together. That could be picking up that energy. But otherwise there is a sort of sense of you start with the love, you start with the passion, and then the energy between you actually justifies itself, and we have because of you. So there's very much you are both very focused on each other in reality. This person is not as focused on themselves as you might first think, and you will see, and they will see, the enormous good that you've done for them, and then that reciprocates. It's a really nice energy. So let's see what Spirit wants to tell you around the energy together. Oh, there we go, alchemy. That's exactly the energy that I'm feeling is between the two of you. And overload. So that's interesting. So I think that's a little bit of a warning from Spirit about the fact that there is so much energy around this. There's so much passion around it. And when you get overload, that's when you don't ground enough. So I think that this is how important it is for you to be grounding that and to take the time that's necessary, not to rush into anything, to just let things naturally evolve. The alchemy is there, but it's a let it evolve. Don't try and force anything too much. It will sort itself out. So if you're feeling at first, is this going to be longer term, or is this just a passing fling? The answer is no, but don't overload it. Just let it naturally evolve, because the alchemy is there. So speaking of such things, I want to use an astrology deck to give us a sense of the combined energy astrologically. So astrologers can take two natal charts of two different people and put them together and create what's called a composite chart. And that gives you an idea almost of the personality of the relationship. So I just want to ask Spirit for some guidance on what that looks like for you. Okay, this is definitely with the 10th house suggesting, I'm getting this feeling over and over and over, that there is a work connection. You are meeting through work, or you will work together in some way. There is something about that. There's something about the 10th house is about career and about being out in the world and who you are in the world. So this relationship, I think, enhances that for both of you, and it gives you both the freedom to be who you want to be within the career and how you manifest in the world with Sagittarius. And Sagittarius's tarot card is Temperance, so that connects to the alchemy card there. It connects to the sense of balance between you. And with Mercury, that's great communication. Like, beyond everything else, there will always be great communication between you. It's also the card of the Magician, which has all the elements, brings all the elements together. And so I think that's true of this, because I think there's sort of air and fire, and you're sort of earth, and then the water is the connection that brings you all together, the emotional thing all together. And it's how you communicate. Emotional communication is important between you and will be very strong. So last but not least, let's ask for just a little bit of an indication around timing for this pile two. Okay, I think this is showing various stages of this. So if you haven't met the person, it could be saying it's a little while until you do, 2 to 3 years. Or it might be that it takes 2 to 3 years of knowing this person and really connecting before it really steps into a long, like you know that it's a long-term relationship. In that case, I feel like you date for quite a while, you maybe move in together, and after 2 to 3 years, you go, yes, this is, you are happy and they are happy that this is the long-term thing. I think in 6+ years has to do, because it's over here with the 10th house, something that you're going to do together in your career. Something really important is going to happen in about 6+ years. It could also be setting up a legacy with the 10th house as well. So it could be around having a family in that sort of time period. For some reason, November's important. It could be a birth month for either of you. It could also be a month where key things happen. Often in astrology charts, there are particular planets that are aspected each year around a particular time, with how quickly the moon moves and how the sun moves and so forth in a chart. So November might trigger certain things within your composite chart or in one of your charts that are important to this in some way. So it's an important month in some ways. But this is very much doubling down on the fact this is a long-term relationship with steps in it towards something that is very manifest and very alchemical. So pile 2, I hope that resonates for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. And if you do know this person already, you have a sense of how that would work for you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these were some of the cards that were under the crystal that brought you here. There's a few others that we'll look at to round the first part of this reading off, which is to give a sense of who this person is, who your future spouse is, a bit about their personality, spirituality, career, ambitions, all that kind of thing, the energy around them. So firstly, it's very interesting, amongst the archetype cards we have vampire, and then we also have boundaries here. I don't think, I want to say right from the start, because this is meant to be about your future spouse and the sense around this is positive overall. I don't think that they are vampiric. I don't think that they would be an energy drain or that they would be someone who got too obsessive and broke boundaries. But I suspect they have maybe come from a family that is a bit like that, or even have friends and others around them. I think there may be some patterns in relationships with them before that were not the right relationship, and that they got very, very drawn to the relationships, and kind of felt that they needed it. They needed relationship for sustenance. And part of their journey at the moment is about coming into who they really are. And I think that when you come across them, if you haven't already met them, they're moving out of that sense of reliance on others, and it's almost been taught to them for some reason. So it's that sense of, I need another to be whole. They are coming out of that, and they're coming into understanding that they are, and they're using their intuition. One of the reasons this has happened to this person is that they're highly intuitive. They're highly psychic. They are someone who is probably a very natural empath, and they sort of merge with people, particularly when they have a heart connection on some level, or they sense a heart connection. And they're not necessarily yet understanding that, but I think they're coming into understanding that, because I suspect we'll see when we look at some of what's going on at the moment in their life, that they're coming out of a relationship or set of relationships that they were too dependent upon, but which weren't the right connection for them, that was leaving them in a bit of a twilight world with their sort of spirituality. And with Archangel Azrael over here, with death and rebirth and with life changes, I do think when you come across them, they have come to that realization. They have come to know that they have to draw from their own well of spiritual strength rather than trying to find it in another. And they need to stand in who they are. And that then allows them to be loyal, which Leo is, and generous, which Leo is, but in a way that has healthy boundaries. So there's something here that they have to work through so that in the relationship with you, that has the right boundaries. But I don't think they have instigated it by being vampiric in nature. I just think they've been taught in some way not particularly functional ways of relating. And I think maybe I'm getting brought up in a narcissistic family or something like that, a family that's got lots of shadows and mythology around it, and they've been taught to not see what they have in themselves, like they've been put down in some way and they have felt reliant on others. But I do think that they are coming out of that. So if you already know them and you think, yes, I understand that, I think you can see that they're coming out of that, and possibly because of the connection with you already. But if not, at the time that you meet, they are starting to really work that out. They may have had therapy, or they may have gone on a spiritual path that has had a death and rebirth, a kind of almost shamanic journey that they've gone through, because there's a lot of power in them in actual fact. Over here with Sekhmet, with fierceness, with divination, with rebirthing, that same energy is there. Underneath everything, they're very powerfully psychic. I would suspect so are you, because I think that when that's what's needed. When you have someone like that, you need someone who's similar, because otherwise I think it can get a bit distorted. So I think that it's probably reflecting that you are as well. And I think maybe you've gone a little bit further on this journey, or maybe not come from the same hurt, though we'll see what comes out when we're looking at what's also going on in your life. But they're definitely moving away from something. The coffin energy there, these cards are normally meant to be around work, and it could suggest that they have been in a stultifying job as well too, because they felt they had to do it again. But the boundaries around who they are and who they should be, they're starting to sort through. But I think this is also picking up this rebirthing, and it could have had some financial impacts on them. On the other hand, they're very, very, very smart. Like if they could just back themselves a bit more, and I think you will help them do that. They are very strategic. They're probably meant to be a leader in some way, picking up Leo. They may already have reached a leadership role, but if that's the case, they're maybe still relying more on other people than they need to. They need to understand how much they bring to the table, because I just think they put themselves down. Maybe they're too generous to others that they work with and they give the credit away too often, that they need to own some of that themselves. But there's very powerful spiritual energy around them, connecting to their very strong intuition so that they can actually understand the boundaries that they need and move forward into something more healthy. So let's see some other personality characteristics about the person. Okay, so we've got various astrology energy here. So 2 Western astrology and 1 Chinese astrology. So they may be, going to the Chinese astrology, 1 born in the year of the goat. So there's a number of years there. So if you know their birth year, one of those years may apply. If not, it may just be more the sort of personality aspects of the goat. So it's worth potentially looking that up. I have to admit, I'm not an expert on all things Chinese astrology. So if those dates relate, then that may be something worth looking up. Gemini and Aries suggest very air and fire oriented people. That feels like that and that as well. It's like those sort of energies in their personality are being reflected by the spiritual energies around them, with Gemini, the air, being around Archangel Azrael, and Aries, the fire energy, being around Sekhmet. Underneath, they're quite competitive. They are witty, entertaining, persuasive. This is why they've probably done quite well in their career, and why many people may not know how much they underestimate themselves, because they appear to be very fiery and so forth. And some of what's going to happen, and some of what is happening with them, with the Leo and Aries, is they're starting to see that in themselves. I just feel like many of them have been put down in their families or put down around their friends or something, and they're having success in the world in some way, which is making them understand this. It feels more like that than around relationships. So I do think that some of them may have had relationships that weren't necessarily healthy, because again, they didn't feel they were lovable. In actual fact, they are, and you will see that, and you will be part of what's getting them to see that. But on the surface, you would not know this. You would not know how sensitive they are underneath. You would not know the massive changes and rebirthing they've been going through, because they appear to be passionate and fiery and creative and witty and charming and all of those sorts of things. And that is partly because they're very clever and they know how to put on a mask to be in the world what the world expects of them. So, but underneath, there's something that makes them not feel quite there. It may even be that some of them are a bit neurodivergent potentially, and they've had to be strategic in how they presented themselves, but they haven't actually understood that very divergence is what makes them so unique and wonderful and inspiring and all those sorts of things. So what else do we have? Okay. So they're faithful. They're going to be faithful, and that fits with sort of Leo. Leo was very, generous and very, very loyal once the heart is connected, and they definitely are looking for that. I mean, that's the sort of the flip side of when you get dependent on people. You're very faithful because you're dependent, but I feel in this relationship, they're not going to be dependent on you. They're going to be more an equal partner because they've gone through this and you've understood what they've gone through. But you can absolutely rely on them. They're not going to stray. They may have a green thumb. They may love to grow things out in the garden, or they may just really love nature, herbalism, that kind of thing, potentially as it's connected with the intuition there. They may have an interest in that side of things. The two of you probably are going to enjoy sitting and watching movies and Netflix and all of that sort of stuff. They really do like to be entertained. They love drama, theatre, those sorts of things as well. Let's get some letters for you to see whether that also helps with identifying the person. So we have C, Z, U, H, G, and M. So, I mean, you could spell out hug, so that's kind of nice. Nice big warm hug from the person. But beyond that, it's much more likely to be initials that might connect, either the initials of the person, or it might be initials of a workplace or some other thing that connects you. So that's just some other information to help you identify the person. So I want to use the astro dice in a particular way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the sun. So that's the life path energy, and I'm going to roll to see what sign the sun is theoretically in, and we have the sun in Aries. So that's picking up this fiery energy. This is the Sekhmet connection. They are meant to be heading towards this sort of fire, whether it's Leo or Aries or whatever it is. They're meant to be heading towards leadership, towards ambition, towards creativity. Their life path is meant to be that. So they may or may not literally have the sun in Aries. They may or may not literally be an Aries person, but that is the energy of their life path. And that's what they're starting to see. It's like they've been held down, as I said. And I think in the time that you meet them and the time you come together, it's part of what they're on. They're on that pathway towards their ambition. Let's have a look at the moon. So this is their emotional nature. Aries again. Okay, so they're very passionate. Underneath everything, very, very passionate. And once they've connected to something and they have passion about it, you get this sort of faithful energy. It's fiery, and there's a lot of ambition. They'd have a lot of ambition for you as well too. In fact, I'm getting that the interesting thing is what you might find with them is that they really want to champion you, like that's, and get you to really see how wonderful you are. And I think they're like that if they're a leader with their teams and all that sort of thing. It's just in their nature. And it's like, I think the relationship with you and what they're starting to realize is that they need to do it for themselves as well. But they're so generous. This is a really, really nice energy. It's a really nice energy that makes me want to cry a bit because I feel like I'm actually getting tears in my eyes. I feel like that's been taken advantage of. But then I also feel in the relationship with you, it won't be, and that this is part of their healing and growth and becoming who they are as well. So let's look at their love nature with Venus. Aquarius. So in their love nature, they're a bit more philosophical. This is the person who kind of looks at the boundaries. And it's good in a way that that's there. I think that if they have been too dependent on relationships in the past, the Aquarian energy around Venus has allowed them to realize that, allowed them to see the pattern, because Aquarius can be detached when necessary. So Aquarius energy is very healthy around the boundaries and about finding new and healthier boundaries. But that sort of love nature that's very passionate, when they express it in some way with Venus, it may feel sometimes a bit detached, but they're not really detached. It's just that this is necessary so they don't overwhelm the circuitry, so to speak, around the love nature. So let's also have a look at the first house, because the first house is the ascendant, and it's often the way that someone is seen more than their sun sign. And we have Sagittarius, so we have another fire energy. So this person will come across very much like a fire sign. They will come across as very freedom-loving, very philosophical. They'll come across as very expansive, probably really love higher learning and all those sort of things as well, but very fiery. This is the point. They come across as being far more confident than they actually are, and you will start to see that. And part of that is because they're so generous and they're so good at it, like they're a fantastic coach or mentor as well. They would really bring that out in other people. But I think the connection with you is part of this death and rebirth. It's part of this sort of rebirthing of their energy and understanding who they are. So that's a really lovely energy. So let's get a little bit more information about when you first meet, or if you think you know this person, when the relationship steps up a level. So we're going to start first with what's going on in their life around either of those times, whichever applies to you, pile 3. Okay, this is definitely with the reversals here. I don't think this is bad. I think this is actually really good. I think it's definitely picking up that you're going to come across them, or you are going to step into a more significant relationship, whichever applies, when they're really coming to understand the number that was done on them in their family or around their friends or whatever it is. When things have come to the surface, the High Priestess reversed, the mysteries have come to the surface, the 5 of Swords reversed, they're coming out of a sense of internal battling and understanding with the information that's coming to them what's really been going on, and they're happy to step out and be more themselves with the 4 of Swords reversed. They have probably, even though they've been very successful and really good with other people, they have really kind of hid their light under a bushel all the time, and they are coming out of that now. They're coming out of wanting the stability at all sake into something that's going to be more healthy around boundaries and so forth. So there's something very pivotal going on in their life, this rebirth, this understanding, and it may well be they have literally learned something about the patterns in their families, something, a friend, maybe even an ex who cheated on them, for instance, and they found that and they realized, this is not healthy to be so connected to someone. I have to make sure that it's not just about my connection to them, but they are the right one for me. There's something that's come out, and it's very, very healthy. So the fact that it looks like all reversed there, that's not bad here. This is actually exactly the energy that this sort of person needs. So you meet at a very good time, or it's indicating that this person is now rising out of that dark phase into a time where they could commit to you because they've understood what was wrong about their patterns before. So let's see what's going on for you at this same time. I'm going to use a different deck. Okay, so I think both of you, there's something quite fated. Well, I think obviously for this sort of reading, there's something quite fated about this connection, but I think you both are meeting, or you step together towards the future, both coming through major transformations. To me, it looks like you will have gone through a more profound external transformation. This looks like an internal transformation. This looks like the other person, your future spouse, is understanding patterns and how more to be themselves. You look like you have made a major change, probably around your career or what you want to do with work. The two things could be connected. It could be that you've met through work and you leave, and that makes them have a realization about patterns that aren't working. Or it could just be that you have left a workplace or majorly changed your career ambitions because you've been going through something, either in a relationship before this person, or I think it's more around friends and around colleagues and so forth, where there was tension, where there was potentially battles, competition and so forth, and where maybe what appeared to be good connections, they turned out not to be, and you've kind of almost burnt it all out before you. So it may be partly why I'm getting the sense that when you first meet, this person wants to lift you up. They may think, well, you're so much better than all of this. You've done exactly the right thing to burn the bridges and just move on, and you're going to be fantastic, and they're really building you up. But the interesting thing is that, as they say, it's almost like a mirror, and that reflects back to them. So them being able to see that in you, and then how you connect to them and what you see in them, it's like it mirrors each other. It's such a nice energy. I know it sounds like it's really dark, but it's actually quite the opposite. It's really liberating. It's really fierce, as Sekhmet over here, in the most positive way. I feel a bit emotional when I'm talking about it because I feel like it's a really, really good thing for both of you to meet and come together at this time and to become far more who you actually are, both of you, who you actually are. So I want to use some decks called the Heart Code Oracles, and there are sort of different ones for different topics. So I'm using the Heart Code Oracles decks for relationship, for career and for lifestyle, just to get a little bit more information about what's going on at this time for both of you. So firstly, around relationships. Okay, this can be a little bit hard to read. This says love from beyond, and this is expectations. So this is definitely showing that with that sort of highly intuitive, sort of spiritual nature of this person, there is spiritual guidance, really strong spiritual guidance around this person at the time. And with the High Priestess reverse, it's like if they're not literally hearing something being told to them, information coming out, then they're getting channeled information and they can't ignore it anymore. But they're starting to understand how much they're loved by their spirit guides and by the universe. So it's really healthy. It's a really good energy around. And because of that, I think they can start to believe that they could be loved for themselves as well. And for you, you're starting to have a sense of expectation around relationship. You're starting to get excited. I think, as I said, that you'll be very psychic as well. I don't think that this sort of person will connect long term with someone who isn't psychic. So I think that you are getting a sense of this coming. If you haven't met this person, you'll sense it before you meet them. You'll know it. You'll have that expectation of that energy coming in. And if you do know the person, then you're starting to build some expectations around it, and you're not wrong. So let's have a look at career energy with each of you at this time. Okay, so your future spouse's energy is denial. So they're still working through the impact of this maybe in a workplace. That's when I said I felt like that was more internal and yours was more external. Yours is advanced. So you're just a little bit ahead of this. I feel like a classic reading of this would be that maybe you were both working together in an organization, and maybe you've made the step to move out and they haven't quite yet, but they're going to, because I think maybe they were in a leadership position or something like that. They felt they had a stake to it, and because they do care a lot about people. There's this sort of denial of the energy, and you become the force to advance, I think, between you. And if it's not in the same workplace, it's still because they're still a little bit in the internal journey. You're a little bit further ahead. You're moving forward a little bit more in the material world at this point when you meet, or as the relationship deepens if you already know the person. So let's lastly, for this part of it, ask about lifestyle energies around. Okay. So there says interaction, yours says preference. So they do have a default to interact with others, to help others and so forth. Part of what they're going to need to learn, and I think you teach them through preference, is that not all relationships are created equal. Not all friendships, workmates, relationships or whatever justify the same degree of interaction, the same degree of generosity of spirit, because they're very generous to a fault. So they default in their lifestyle to interact with others. You're, I think, going to teach them that preference is not a bad thing, that preference actually helps them to make sure that connection is with the right people, whether it's in relationships, as it will be with you, and or if it's in career or friendships or other people that they help. You're partly here to teach them some stuff, I have to say, Pile 3. And this is not to say that they're not advanced and they're not intelligent, and they are. They're very advanced in intelligence, but they have been hobbled by something, and I think it's been quite deliberate, as I say, something in a family or something, and you were here to teach them in the sense of remembering, in relearning something, and in re-owning who they are. So it's very important what you bring to the table. So given that, let's have a look at some advice from spirit and energies around the relationships, the relationship moving forward. So we'll start firstly with the Jukebox Oracle for some songs, so it's sort of soundtrack to this energy as you meet or as you move into the deeper relationship. Okay, so emotions, a very strong emotional connection between you. And it's interesting, as I say, because the kind of the elements that have been coming out, apart from in the astrological side of things, there wasn't a lot of water, but underneath everything there is. You can't have this sort of energy without a lot of emotion. And I think you draw that out in each other, and because of you will definitely be number one to each other. That's part of what you're going to teach this person around preference, but it's a broader thing around preference. And you will connect on a very profound psychic level as well too, which you will have a sense of maybe a little bit ahead of them. I just feel like you're a little bit ahead of them, but it's not a competition or anything like that. I just feel that's the case, but it's the healthy emotional way for the two of you to be together. So let's have a look at what spirit advises more generally for you. Okay, yeah. And this is probably true for both of you. I suspect that both of you have dealt with competition around you. I don't think you're competitive with each other, but you've had to burn something down to move on and become who you are. And they have a lot of competitive energy around family and friends, I think. But what you're meant to do is heal that energy. The two of you are going to heal that energy by recalibrating where you put your energy and your approach and your emotions and all that sort of thing. So it's healing unhealthy attachments that both of you have had to some degree, but I think your future spouse more than you, I think they do have quite a lot of healing to deal with, but you will understand it because you've seen it yourself. So let's have a look at the composite astrology. We used the astro dice earlier to look at some personality characteristics of your future spouse, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a deck to just look at the energy for your composite chart, which if you know astrology, you'll know that you can take two people's natal charts and put them together and create effectively a chart of the relationship. So I just want to get a little bit of advice from Spirit about the nature astrologically of this connection for you, the two of you together. Okay, so there's the water. This is what I'm saying. You kind of, it's a really interesting energy. You need each other to get to the emotion. That's the interesting thing. You need, and maybe to get to the healthy, healed emotion, because the Mars energy around, because you're both leaders, I think, and you're both very much go-getters, and that's part of your combined energy, but it's the emotional connection between you that heals that and makes it healthy, because you both dealt with the emotions coming off competition and ambition before, but you're grounding it. So it's earth and water grounding the emotions and this Mars energy to move forward. So together you can both be much more than you would have been separate in that sense, because you both understand the impact of that energy when it works positively and when it doesn't work positively. And it will work positively between you, but you've both to some degree been burned by competitive energy from other people. So last but not least, let's just ask for a little bit of timing advice around this, just to sort of also help look in key sort of timing for your relationship with your future spouse. Okay, so I'm feeling that some of you may already know this person, and you might be going, okay, I know who you're talking about, or it might be that it's very soon, because, I mean, this is a timeless reading, so it's always going to depend upon when you watch it, but it's going to first be published in October. So January is not too far away, but it's saying be patient and press pause. So if you know the person already, I think this is saying that there will be a breakthrough around your connection in January. Like maybe because they are still a little bit behind you in really sorting this through, you've got to allow them time to do it and just be that friend and that support and so forth around them. If you don't already know them, it may be saying that there are other relationships around you at the moment, and so like just don't get involved in that. You've got a lot of other transformational energy within your own life you're doing, so press pause on relationships, be patient, because possibly in January you are going to meet this person if you haven't met them already. So it's either don't push too much in the relationship at the moment, allow them time to really go through their transformation and their rebirthing if you know them, or just don't kind of rush out looking for anything at the moment. Just be patient. It's coming through in a January time period. So Pile 3, I hope that that's helpful, and I hope it resonates for you, and I hope you enjoy the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you do know who this person is, or you have this sense of it, because I think you will have a sense of things before they come into being, you are psychic, then I'd love to hear about that in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.